Hey guys, welcome to the MC Anime Podcast. We cover anime, geek culture, Japanese aesthetics, and Asian studies. We are a multi-fandom podcast, and you can expect to hear topics in your favorite hobby or fandom activity potentially. You can find MC Anime on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Also, please check out mcanimepodcast.com, our website. Furthermore, stay tuned in for another episode.
Welcome to another episode of MC Anime. MC here, fellow co-host with us today, Leah. How you doing?
I'm actually doing fabulous. I had an awesome weekend. It's a great start to the week. So yeah, so far so good.
You know, interviews going on the way, and guess what? Nostalgic coming back, so you can't complain.
I mean, I feel like there's always a way to complain, but we will choose not to. We'll choose the path of least resistance.
True. And today's an interesting episode. We're gonna go over some notable anime reboots and basically discuss, slight differences between each reboot and discuss it as a series as a whole.
Yep. Because there's a lot to notice in reboots, and nostalgia is always going to be there. So I think it's really cool to see how shows come back. And some do better than the others. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
True. So, for anyone that doesn't know what a reboot nextly is, a reboot basically encompasses one series being produced and then another series of the same or similar name or same name comes back, but it's a totally different company or totally different project.
Yeah, it can definitely vary because sometimes it'll just be a new company and they'll be retelling the same story, or there'll actually be changes that have been made, like on the manga side, that they're like, yeah, this show deserves it. It had a lot of love when it first came out, but these changes would definitely make it better. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
My favorite shows have been like been rebooted and brought back, so you just get twice the amount of fun.
Oh yeah. And double the trouble, double the fun.
I feel like that phrase can work sometimes, but like probably not in the court of law. like if the judge is like, "This is your second offense," you're like, "Hey, double the trouble."
I mean, true.
You get 15 years.
Double jeopardy.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's fair. we can add that in. I guess that's fair.
Yeah. So the first series that we're going to discuss that's an anime reboot is Dororo. And Dororo is really interesting because it's from, Teisuka, creative like Astro Boy and Blackjack. It came out in the original anime was in 1969. It was a faithful adaptation. It has to be censored to the network at the time was too dark because Dororo is about a person who at birth has no senses and no limbs, and he's just cursed but in that form. So, what do you think of Dororo?
I mean, I definitely get the censorship from back in the day, especially if we're going back to 1967. That still falls in around the time where Japan was still censoring the type of media that was coming out. So it coming back, having a different animation style. The animation style definitely is different. Like it almost kind of looks like a completely different show when you look at the character design for the main character, but it still has some of the main elements. They're just allowed to have the freedom to show a lot more of the gore and get a lot more into those dark themes and storylines, which I think it does it justice. I think it makes it like okay, original fans of the show and then also original fans of the manga can kind of see it in its full glory.
Yeah, and the basically the plot, his mother knew was forced to set him adrift from the river. He was left to be killed by his father. The infant was subsequently found and raised by a sensei, medicine man, healing magic, and methods to give the child prosthetics, crafted him the remains of the children who died in the war. He became invincible and immortal blow as a result of prosthetics and healing magic. Left arm, special blade, and then there you go. So he has no eyes, no limbs, and he's a very who I guess supposedly die.
I mean, he sounds awesome. He sounds
Yeah,
awesome. He
it's
sounds
like
very intense. Like
yeah,
it's definitely an intense show. I don't think anyone's watching it and it's like getting the happy, like happy
yeah,
days vibe from it. But
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, even the eyes is the glass eyes too.
The glass eye look is actually really cool. I will have to say that, especially in
Yeah,
the
and
new
the
adaptation.
yeah the new adaptation they actually focus more on the actual prosthetics and swords and stuff.
Yeah, there's definitely more detail added, but you also have to think
Yeah.
when it came out in 1967, it's the Astro
Mhm.
Boy kind of iconic drawing style that we all know and love. So I can see why there probably wasn't as much attention to detail, but newer anime definitely likes to focus in. Um, has a lot of influences from like 90s attention to detail and focus. So I think they did great,
Oh yeah, and the
honestly.
2019 version is actually not bad. And it actually captures more of what was censored in the original. So if you want a tamer version, the first is really good, black and white, but it's still really good. The newer version is in color, but that's not the main difference. The main difference is one showing more of the gory detail while the other one is not.
Yeah. It's a change in censorship. I think that's what it needed. Yeah. So well received.
And actually, it was really received in the community when Dortoro got 40 years later, the reboot. So,
Which is impressive because I don't think you see that often. Like a
not
show
yet.
being brought 40 years later and doing well.
Yeah, it actually did really well when it launched in 2019. So, can't really complain too much.
Yeah,
And
not at all.
Hazuka, he did really good content, so I can't complain.
Iconic content. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, it takes to really note that even if the shift from black and white to color, right, it was maybe the most noticeable difference. Black and white was still is still very can still be very cheap to produce. Color actually has a lot more technology because now you're not having just the typical color. Now you actually see everything. So if we ever had to go back to black and white, I don't think people would complain too much unless they take it for granted.
Hmm. I mean, there's always a possibility. I mean, there's certain shows I think work really well for black and white, and this is clearly one of them. Like, this is definitely one of, it's already dark, like dark, and it has the themes for it. I think black and white would it work for, shows with a lighter storyline,
Yeah,
and
like
happier themes to it.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're talking like Berserk will have a good black and white version.
Berserk is great for black and white.
Oh
There's
God.
no joy happening in that show.
It's just fair and war and more war.
Just just pain.
Oh gosh. So, uh,
Yeah.
let's see.
So next up is Hunter x Hunter. which is another iconic show that got a reboot and did so much better, I think, with the reboot. At least personally to me, I like the new style that they have for the drawing. It's taking forever for them to finish it, but the drawing style and the animation, I think, is really good.
Yeah, and also it might not feel like a reboot necessarily, but it's considered a reboot of sorts because even though it's a continuation of the original series, it's still a really fresher look into the animation and the long hiatus that the show went on. Because of the manga, you can't really complain too much if the manga is being delayed, and yeah, it sets up production schedules. So I think they make the right choice in that area.
I mean, yes and no. I guess I would say yes only in comparison to like other shows that kind of went on past the manga. Um, and then it didn't do so well because people were like, "Where are you going? Are you just writing this as you go?" And they kind of are. Um, and then I mean, for Hunter x Hunter, they stopped right before the Chimera arc, which is one of the very big and like impactful ones. Everyone loves that arc and who watches the show. So I do like that they basically, you know, started from the beginning, got all the way through it, and they went as far as they could now again, and they're on hiatus. Like
Yeah.
I don't even know if it's been announced when they're coming back. Let me see.
Yeah, I don't know. I think shows that go on long hiatus have there's like a bigger fan reaction if it comes back, but most of the time studios don't want to do that to keep the fans rating, so they go off script and it just turns out to be weirder than the actual manga.
I mean, true. I a great explanation I would say when it comes to shows that decide to continue on without the manga or source material. There's a clip from the show Gintama that talks about
Mhm.
the several different ways things can go, you know, a little off tracks when the manga, if a show is trying to slow down to keep up with it, if it goes beyond it and then it has to circle back so it catches up. There's so many tricky ways that, you know, the storyline can get lost. Your characters seem like they're completely different. But I mean, for Hunter x Hunter, them stopping and deciding to come back
Yeah.
years later with a completely different, you know, style and all of that, I think it's the right move because
Yeah,
everyone loves it. The fight scenes are phenomenal.
absolutely. And also, Hunter x Hunter is really one of those anime that it's just not the. At one point, it topped in sales, so it was like official top three. There was an argument for that at one point when Bleach was failing on sales. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but
I think
even to get that spot means that it actually drew attention away from the other bigger seller at the time. So it's commendable.
yeah, I think it's first off, it's got some of the wildest villains and
Yeah.
storylines out of
Oh my
most shows.
god.
Like I think everyone like Hisoka, everyone knows who he is, even if you haven't seen it. It's
Hmm.
like the anime version of it. It's just he's a mess. And I mean, I a lot of my friends also have like the have anime tattoos, and everyone I know who has anime tattoos has something from Hunter x Hunter. I don't know why. It's just I don't know. It's just a show that when people watch it, they get very much so into it. I think it's because it has kind of almost Pokemon vibes, where it's
Hmm.
just like a young kid who just decides to take off, like
I
13.
mean, he's
Just
also he's
how?
also a main character. Doesn't have a lot of abilities too. So
Yeah, no, at all.
he doesn't have much. So the way he fights is kind of interesting. Even if he's not necessarily winning, he still has a team to back him up too. But he has the determination to pull out victories in unusual ways. It's very unorthodox, especially
Very
his
much
fishing
so.
pole. His the
Yeah,
weapon of choice is a fishing pole. I still can't believe
I love Gon. I think he's great. Everyone also loves Killua. Like, and this is also one of those shows where I'm glad they
that.
remade it because Hunter x Hunter is also known for being a show that changes the outfits of the characters,
Yeah,
especially like if in the manga and also in the show itself. So in recent years, that's become like a really big thing that people love to see, and they do it really well. So I'm glad that they've remade the show, and the lines are clearer, the colors are more vibrant, so the outfits look cooler. Yeah.
true. You know, and I think it goes off to show you that even if something like Hunter x Hunter coming back, that means there could be other hope for other stuff too.
Yeah, I would say the only thing though is like I don't mind if a show comes back, but finish
They
it.
need to do it right.
Like finish
Yeah,
it. It don't take forever. We're
yeah,
waiting.
yeah. And then next one, you know, they might have Nin, but how about alchemy and magic? Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood.
This I think is the best example of a show that came back
Especially
at least in
being
my
long
opinion.
too. Especially being
Yeah.
long as well.
Yeah.
Like,
For this to come back I think was perfect. And it's basically just one season.
you mean one season. It's just like 100 some episodes. 200 episodes.
It feels like one season to me because I don't know anyone who doesn't just you just keep watching. You just keep watching. Like even when the movie came out for the original Full Metal Alchemist,
Mhm.
like I watched it because I was like I like the never ending story is how it felt to me. I was like I
Mhm.
don't want it to end. I want to keep seeing what's going to happen. I want them to be happy. I want Ed and Winry to be together and all this stuff. Like I don't know. I feel like whenever I watch it, it doesn't feel as long as it actually is.
True.
Because there's always some it's a fun show. It's funny, it's heartbreaking, it's got a lot of foolishness. It has everything that I love. I absolutely love this
And
show.
Brotherhood FMA actually stayed more to the manga because at the time of original FMA, Fullmetal Alchemist, the manga wasn't completed, so they had to go off track and go off script.
Yeah,
I
they
mean,
had to wing it.
they had the similar endings, but they're like super drastic differently.
Uh I mean, yeah, like I think this is kind of, how you were saying in the beginning. There's those like key differences that make like a remake sometimes better or might make the original better. And Full
But
Metal
these are
Alchemist,
so close, it's really hard to tell. It's like that's why there's an argument
it is
which
very easy
one
to
is better.
tell. No,
It's so
no, it's
close,
very
like
easy to tell. They
well, I
literally
have a lot
changed
of
out
communities that actually like
villains.
FMA better than Brotherhood, and more people like Brotherhood more than FMA. It's one of there's not really a necessary agreement in the community which one's better.
That is not true.
That's pretty much
Brotherhood,
equal.
Brotherhood is definitely the one that most people say because it's just it is better. We have to
Yeah, but
admit
a
that
lot of
it
times
makes
people are a
more
fan of
sense.
Brotherhood are also fans of the FMA, so they have mixed reactions. Like
Oh,
they
you could
still
be still
watch FMA
yeah, you
and
could still be
Brotherhood
fans of
together.
both.
So
Yeah, I mean, I grew up with the original and I loved it. Like I absolutely loved it and I didn't think that there was a way that they could make it better. But then I saw Brotherhood and I think a lot of people my age saw Brotherhood and then you were just like, "Oh no, they definitely could have made it better." Like and they did. And that's because the manga was complete and it did feel like more of a succinct story. Like what
yeah,
they did with Greek's character and how they made changes and how the mom was used in the story. I think those small but very significant differences
yeah.
added like a more heartfelt feeling to it. But
Oh
at the
yeah,
end of the day, you're still gonna love all the characters, most of the
true.
characters.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah,
And actually, one show that kind of sparked the idea for this is Fruit Basket.
I love Fruit Basket.
There's
They
the
did
major
amazing.
difference between the 2001 and the I believe 2019 2020 is
I think it's 19, yeah.
is the double the episodes. Because the original Fruit Basket ended with a cliffhanger, I think.
I don't remember. I think you're right. But it was also during the absolute height of the Fruit Basket fandom, like in
Yeah.
franchise, because the mangas for the show, like everyone absolutely loved them, and then
Mhm.
they had the card game and all of that. So like people were very invested in Fruit Basket, and like forget Twilight, like let's get the Fruit Basket is how people
Yeah,
felt.
I probably have to stick with the original version just because it actually feels genuine. The new version is just so different. I,
Oh,
I don't know.
I like the new one.
No, the original version really has nostalgic for me. Like I know some people
Well,
like the newer version, but like the newer version just seems like very sappy. Like
yeah, I mean, that's fair. But I will say that the newer one, like anyone who reads Fruit Basket is a like a romance.
mm,
Um and basically it's the main character is a girl named Toro who moves into the house of this very strange family. And for some reason every member of the family turns into a animal from
yeah,
the zodiac signs. So every
yeah,
single one of them, I think if they're like hugged or kissed by the opposite sex, like the opposite gender, they turn into their animal. And
yeah,
so it's a whole like there's Yuki and there's Kyo. They're like yin and yang of each other. One's fiery
yeah,
and hot, the other one's like the cool prince. The whole story is about which one will she end up with. But there's also darker tones to the story
yeah,
that you start to find out about the family and why they are the way they are, why everyone really needs therapy in this family. And I don't think that the original really like got how dark it was because
yeah. It
it was
did.
some mess. It was some mess, and I think the newer one does hit like truer to what the manga had.
Yeah,
And
it does.
that's coming from someone who has all of the books, the
Yeah,
hard
and then
copies and all of
also,
it.
I think the member of the family who's the female cousin has the same effect on. He can turn into the animal forms as. I don't know. I really love Fruit Basket.
No, it's a
Voice act-
fantastic show.
I
Yeah.
met one of the voice actors at one of the
Oh, that's awesome.
uh, you know, superstar anime convention review that day, so it was.
Absolutely jealous.
But Fruit, I just wish. I don't know. Like the anime, the second anime. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. You kind of have to admit manga too.
I'll give you that. That's fair.
Like they like, well, we're gonna do it. Let's just do it in and the next one on the list, Housing. I mean, there's not many differences I see in it.
I mean, the animation style might
I mean,
have
the
to change.
animation style, yes, but like,
Hello?
orange eyes and a creepy smile, same
Oh,
suit.
hold on.
Like, come on.
Mason.
What?
No. Your phone's cutting, your thing's cutting in and out. So
Oh,
I did hear what you said at first.
oh. Well, it's the same red hat, orange glow in the eyes, creepy smile, same suit. Stuff like that.
Oh yeah, no, they keep true to the original
Yeah,
source material, but just like with Full Metal Alchemist, the
yeah,
original story, like the manga, wasn't complete.
yeah,
So I think for the remake, like Hellsing Ultimate, the naming is perfect. Like it really is ultimate because it has everything that the manga had, but you get to see it in full action.
yeah,
And I love Alucard. Like I love him. He's hilarious.
yeah,
He's absolutely horrible. He's hilarious though.
yeah. And the villain of the original is Incognito. So Incognito is totally original to the first Hellsing Ultimate, which is hilarious because of manga not finishing.
Yeah, I really like because I really do enjoy the fact that like in the remake, especially for itself, I think I felt it was a bit more impactful and I liked how the story
Hmm.
flowed. And of course, it's cleaner
Yeah,
than the original version. And
yeah,
and and then there's also the abridged version that's on YouTube, which
yeah.
makes it so much funnier.
Oh
So
my god.
it makes it so you see how chaotic it really is, as if that was a clear.
Yeah, I don't know about Bridge. I don't usually try to watch a Bridge because it just I don't know. There has to be like super good Bridge for me. It can't just be any Bridge. If that makes any sense.
Well, the one for Helsing Ultimate, I promise you, is actually a good one because they also did the
Okay.
DBZ abridged series, and everyone loves that one.
Oh, okay. Well, that might have some hope for me then. Maybe one day we'll cover a Bridge series in some time and fashion.
That's definitely not family friendly. That's the only thing about a bridge series. There's nothing family friendly about the abridged anything. It's always going to be inappropriate. So we may just write something on that one. I don't know if we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Mm.
It brings us to the next one on the list. Fate State Night Unlimited Blade Works.
Now this one is based off of a visual novel, and
Yeah.
I know this show, but I only know it like barely, just enough to like know what it is, and
Mhm.
if I was like in anime trivia, I would at least know the name of it. But
Yeah.
when I look at the styles of it, I have to say I do like the original. Like I like the original
Yeah.
drawing style better. It's kind of like
Yeah.
OG anime.
Well, also with me, okay, I didn't actually think this was a reboot until just now. Uh, because of the fact like I thought Fate State Night was and then Fate State Night Unlimited Blade Works was actually like the continuation of that other season. I didn't know it was like even when I watched it, it didn't feel like a reboot at all. It felt like the season two.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a reboot. I think it's one of the few on this list where you're like, wait, that has something before it? And like that's
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I had no idea.
Like I
And like
watched
I
it
think
in its
yeah.
originality, in its entirety, but like it just felt like it was a season two kind of thing.
Yeah, and
Well,
I think also it's like the way that they have it set up is
yeah.
the two different endings that you can kind of have like basically
Hmm.
like if you play an otome game or like a dating game or something like that, like depending on who you want the main character to end up with, that's the ending you see. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what they did with uh Fate Stay Night.
Yeah.
So they had like the first one
Yeah.
that it went in one direction and I guess the second one goes in the other. Very strange. I've never
Yeah.
seen a show do that. Fruit Basket didn't do that. Fruit Basket said, "You get what you get, and
Yeah.
shut up."
And also the main character, Chiru, also was had feelings for Saber in Fate Stay Night, and then he eliminated Blade Works Fate Stay Night. He had feelings for Ren, so it's kind of interesting seeing that dynamic too. And I
Yeah,
don't
and
even
it
think,
kind of offers a whole new story, so I can see why.
yeah.
More
Would
bang
also
for your
would
buck.
Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works be one of the other continuations of the alternate endings of Fate Stay Night? So maybe that's why I didn't feel like a necessary, an obvious reboot.
Maybe I
Like,
could see that making sense.
I just didn't have that impression that it was a reboot. And I mean, it started at the beginning, of course, but like it didn't. I don't know. I feel
I
like,
also think is I not to say that it's not a popular show, but I'm just
yeah,
saying I never heard anyone ever talk about how this was like a remake of it. I think for
yeah,
like Full Metal Alchemist, people it like really talked about how Brotherhood. They were like, oh, this is the new one. They made it right this time, or they made it really different. I like the changes. And
yeah,
in same with like Fruit Basket and all the other ones we talked about. But for this one, I never see much discussion about it being a reboot. I don't even think if I Googled it, reboot would be one of the first things to come up. So
yeah. It's just it's just. I mean, it's just one of those things that alternative stories sometimes do that just seems different.
but it definitely works, I have to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the next one on the list, Devilman Crybaby. These are really like set apart in the original content.
Yeah. I
Because the
mean,
original Devilman Crybaby was 10 episodes. It was based on the 72 version of Devilman, which was like a spin-off kind of thing. But I don't know. But Devilman Crybaby is basically the introduction to the Devilman universe.
yeah. I mean, I'll be honest, I hadn't seen the original or anything
Yeah.
for it literally until
Mhm.
there was kind of like the reboot for it. Like I had seen it kind of like in bookstores and whatnot in the anime section,
Yeah.
but like in terms of actually watching it, that didn't happen until it was rebooted and Netflix brought it on. I was like, oh shoot, this is awesome. And also they made big changes to kind of like the style and the like aesthetic to that.
It's
Show
like
it.
psychedelic, gory imagery. You check out the old stuff, but they're not sufficiently terrified of Devilman. But literally, the Netflix, uh, Devilman Crybaby. Oh gosh, there's such a major difference between the two. Like,
Yeah, but I love it. I love it so much.
I mean, yeah, the original is a little, I don't know,
It's
boring.
it's giving
It's
it gives me
mediocre.
Batman vibes. I'm gonna be
Yeah,
honest. It it gives me like gargoyle Batman type vibes where I'm just like, okay, the look of it and the way that they have it set up because it has a 70s
yeah,
theme to it. I'm not scared. I just think that
yeah,
like, what a weird thing to be happening. But in the newer one, they bring the psychedelic like fearful side of it all where reality is
yeah,
being bent. And I think that hits a lot closer to the things that scare people now
yeah.
instead of like back in, what, 1972. There's a
Oh, I don't
40-year
know if they were
difference.
being scared by the original Devilman Crybaby. I don't know if they were being scared.
I mean, I could definitely see religious folks being like, "What? devil, and then looking at it and they were like, not my child, and refuse to let their
Especially
kid read it.
Netflix, especially the Netflix version. Oh gosh, it definitely deserves its MA rating more so than
Oh,
the
100. Yeah,
original.
no, they said we're going to earn every bit of this and did not disappoint.
Yeah, to be honest, Devilman Crybaby, the original, I get the feeling that it is TP-14. While the MA rating is like definitely the difference between the two.
Yeah, there's a clear difference in how the story is told, elements that are used to bring
Yeah,
it fully to life. And also I think because it changed the animation style, it doesn't feel as flat as I
yeah,
kind of felt when you look at the original. Um so I don't know. I just
yeah,
really like the newer version. I think they did
yeah.
amazing with it.
Mhm.
Um and everybody left that show feeling different some kind of
Yeah.
way.
It's also to note that Toei Animation and Science Solo are two different companies. Like, I don't. All right, so next on the list will be Miss. Here comes Miss Modern. So, Miss. Here comes Miss Modern, dubbed in 1978, 42 episodes, a feisty 20 Benino who wants to choose her own husband, pursue a queer in a world that expects her to enter an arranged marriage. And then we also have a reboot in the form of movies, which later dropped in 2017. Huh, this is interesting. Because one, we have an episodic reboot, and then we have the movie reboot. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think that's kind of smart because I mean, for the genre itself, like we've seen a lot
Yeah.
of the reboots that get kind of greenlit are action ones. So having one where it's like more life to life slash romance, I think that's really cool to see that they were like, you know what, just make it movies. And I think it also probably flows really well as a movie. Like you can kind of have a complete story happen rather than like, mainly the movies for action shows are literally just about them trying to have one big fighting arc kind of take place,
Yeah.
or it's just like a transition
Yeah.
point. So like you don't know what's going to happen in the next season, so you got to watch the movie to see how we got there. Um, yeah, that so I think that's really smart. I think that's actually the smartest thing I've heard in a minute.
Also, it's really important to note that it's the same animation company. Nippon
That's rare.
Animation. Like Nippon Animation's making its own reboot. Like that doesn't happen very often. It's usually two different studios that make it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm liking the newer one, but the old one, it's still very close to the new one. So it's really hard to say which one's actually better.
I have to
You
say
know,
probably the movie, just for
yeah,
the
the
simple
movie's
fact that I
still
think that. Yeah, I like the drawing style a little bit more.
mhm,
I like the old school drawing style. Don't get me
yeah,
wrong. The 70s and 60s, they have a great style. I just think that there are certain shows that like work better with it. Um, and I probably wouldn't want to watch this show in its older form
yeah,
or unless I watch the movie first and then like I
yeah,
fall in love with the characters in the movie, then I'll go back and watch the episodes because then it's just more content. But
yeah.
yeah, I really like the new style. I think it fits really well. It kind of reminds me of like a not a webtoon, but kind of like a dating game. It's really
True.
cute.
Yeah. Few modern fans know the original. The reboot makes an attention. The second is, it's very, really easy in the eyes. It's more digestible as a movie. We already brought that up. Movie is better version than sometimes. And also, original was certainly feminist for its time. Ideas about, naturally change in the years since its release. So it's kind of interesting seeing that approach with it as well. Like, the decade approach in the core issue of Miss Modern. It brings into questions like the title "Here Comes Miss Modern" kind of brings into more light that it's like, let's make this old anime into a newer anime. What do you think?
I see it that way, and I also see like because it's called Miss Modern, they clearly
Yeah.
have also made some adjustments in how they tell her story and show her
Mhm.
wanting to be independent and
Yeah.
achieving that and like what she holds as values. So I think that's great, and it being introduced to a new generation um with a really good core message and everything. I think it works.
Yeah, and
I don't
basically
I don't see how
in the
people could
movie,
dislike it.
yeah, also in the movie format, let's say it's like an hour. So it's like 3 installments of 3 movies, something like that. You have like 3 hours that's easier to digest in a, let's say, what, 42, so, you know, 30 minutes, 20 minutes each, something like that.
Yeah. And I think also for your audience, just keeping in mind, I think some studio, especially because it's the same studio, I think they're aware of how much like content and attention they can pull from people
Mhm.
with a show like this. So maybe making it into movies definitely allows it to have more success because it may not be able to pull as much attention if it's going to just be like a 22 episode series. People might not gravitate towards it, but as a movie, oh yeah, I definitely check it out, especially since I hadn't heard of it.
True. It's actually really interesting because, like, it's almost like 30 years, like 40 years difference, too.
Yeah, that's a long time. And a lot of these shows have that, where it's
It's
been so
almost
long that
40
it's almost,
years.
yeah, it's almost
If they lost
lost.
if they lost in like 2018, it'd literally be like the 40th anniversary. So like maybe they did it because of that, you know?
Oh, I can definitely see them marketing it with that as well. Like 40 years go by, and
42 episodes.
yeah, I'm sure there's like parents who are over in Japan, like moms who maybe got really into Miss Modern when they were younger, and then they bring it back, and maybe that's something that they had their kids watch or their daughters watch. I think that's really cool.
Oh yeah. And it
Very smart.
also brings into like, Benno's story, who she is, how she's fighting for independence and being a woman in the 70s compared to early 2020s.
Yeah.
It goes to show you that maybe society has changed enough where the reboot actually brings up more empowerment or slightly different variations of it that fits the culture.
Oh yeah, I can absolutely see that.
That's
And I
also
mean, of
another
course they're
thing.
gonna have to change it.
Yeah, of course, reboots is also really nice to look at because it's like the feeling of translation of culture is going to be maybe dramatically different.
Yeah, seeing the slight changes and shifts, even if they keep the same like time period, I do
Yeah.
think like how they go about doing some of the dialogue and some of the issues brought up. They've probably found new ways to have those same kind of discussions,
Mm.
or if they evolve it, having those discussions in modern. That's got to be really fun, at least for the writers. I wonder how many of the writers were big fans of the source material too.
Yeah, true.
So yeah.
I mean, hey, sometimes bringing up the reboot does a really good attention to detail, but also case study of different decades. So, who knows? Let's say something from like the 1950s gets some reboot that now gets a new audience. That's what reboots kind of do. It kind of brings on a new audience whatever many years later, or Brotherhood being so close. This
Oh
kind of
yeah,
brings
Brotherhood's a
us,
great example.
yeah,
Yeah.
this also brings us to Shaman King too. Very
I
recent too.
remember Shaman King. Yeah.
I don't know.
I
I'm
remember
fan
that
of
one
this.
being super
I'm like,
popular.
like I don't know. Shaman King. I'm actually fans of both. And like I don't know, weird to say that, but like both look good.
Yeah, to me I feel like Shaman King is one of the ones that like stuck to it. It looks great in both ones. I don't think the old Shaman King looks bad at all.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I would watch the new one and then not be able to watch the old one. So I'd be like, oh man, look how bad it is. No, I think it looks great.
Of course, it deviates too much from the original manga, convoluted and confusing ending. I mean, there's also, mm, the design of
It's a fair criticism.
Yoko, Taco Love. It's always going to be some weird design. Pokemon had another uh, Pokemon that kind of looked like that, controversial, being racially insensitive. So, I mean, I don't really see it as being that turn off, in my opinion. I mean, 2021, we're kind of seeing a new anime, much more faithful to the adaptation of the manga, updated
Yeah,
design
because
of
you're.
Yoko.
Hmm.
I don't know,
Yeah,
pleasing
I
compared to
like
the old
it.
style.
Yeah, I like that they listen kind of to what the audience was saying and like the criticisms to it. So when they came back, they were well received and liked because they sat down and they worked on it not only to make sure that it matched the original content material, but also that like they didn't just keep barreling forward even when people were like, hey, maybe not for this part, we could change this, and it didn't take away from the story.
Oh yeah, and also with Shaman King, it does really well in the story of being getting to be the title of Shaman King. Like the little goal of the anime is Shaman King. And shamanism is a practice of spirits and deities. Get rid. It's really like a tribal religion kind of thing. It dates back really long
Mhm.
time, and it has early influences in Shintoism in Japan. So Shaman King kind of brings them to those beliefs a little bit.
Which I do like. I love when
Yeah.
it's pretty popular in anime. I think Japan does a really good job of knowing how to mix their culture with their
Mhm.
history and their arts and all of that and their religions. And just the way that it incorporates it in the way that you see it pop up,
Yeah.
it's interesting. I think they do it very very well.
Yeah. I mean, I have no complaints about it. I mean, the swords slightly look a little different. Like one's the evil mask, one's like a possession of spirit, but I don't really get like major differences, even though there is slightly.
Yeah, no, I don't think that there's any major differences that fans would point out and say, "Oh, I can't watch it. It's not the original." Like it's still very true to it. I think it's even truer than
Yeah,
maybe the OG. Yeah,
because the OG kind of went off the manga because once again, I don't know. I guess manga schedule and the first anime kind of always conflict with each other.
it takes longer. It takes longer, and then also, it's is usually based off of the creator and how what their workflow is. If they aren't dependent, probably on like being like when I think with Shonen Jump, that definitely pushed a lot of shows to be consistent because they had to like have a weekly appearance to be in Shonen Jump. But anything before then, it came out when it came out. You got it when you got it, and also production techniques were different.
Hmm. it really goes to show you that, techniques and timing and attention to detail and storyboarding really does impact the show.
Oh, absolutely. And I think for some shows, it does show it's obvious where they didn't have any more source material, so they had to kind of figure out where would it go. And
Yeah.
fans normally pick up on that. Fans can pick up on it. I think there's just a few shows where, honest and true, when they deviate, people don't mind.
Yeah. And the last one we're going to discuss is Sailor Moon Crystal.
This
I
is one of it's good.
I have no complaints. I mean, the original still looks like the original, and the slight touch-ups by Toei Animation still feels Sailor Moon to me. Just, the brighter hair and not so much dark blonde.
Yeah, the artistic changes that they decided to make for Sailor Moon, to
Mm-hmm.
kind of fully round out her character, especially with new
Yeah.
technologies, she looks great.
Oh
Like the
yeah,
whole show
especially
looks
in
good.
the eyes and the outfit. I mean, like the fucking the original eyes, and then like the real rounded eyes, kind of really make sell her out even more.
Yeah, I don't know. She has like there's a different kind of grace to it that's added with this one. They added
Yeah,
a bit like of different accessories to her as well. Like obviously Sailor Moon is as feminine as your good like iconic feminine
yeah,
anime character, but I do think this
mhm,
newer one kind of offers a softer glow to her that
yeah.
people love. People really resonated with and
Mhm.
really enjoyed it.
And if the art, brings up the filler episodes, tries to make the story more faithful to the original manga.
Thank goodness. We love to see it. Love to see it.
Also, you have better character development, like depicting growth and change. Also, we don't have the controversy of
The relationship.
the cousin
Crazy.
relationship. They're actually portrayed as the original intent, which is great. You know, Hakua and Michu, and then the Hakua's gender non-forming identity being explicit, I guess, rather than simply implying LGBTQ. So, like, they're actually like portraying not the sensitive side to 4W kids at the time as well. Which,
Yeah,
4W kids, when they take their dumbing, it's just like, well, this is what we have. Here you are.
yeah, we didn't have as much freedom back then, really, with anything. It wasn't just
Yeah.
censorship in regards to sexuality. They would shut everybody down. You were they were like, who else are you gonna go to? We were like, you're right. You
Yeah.
are right. We'll take what we
The
can get.
1990s, and then we also have like the 2015, 2021
Hmm.
for the newer version.
I think a newer version, yeah, like 2021,
But I don't know, like Sailor
2020,
Moon.
2021.
Yeah, Sailor Moon to me is
Mm.
just like as a classic character that you just can't get away from. It's shoujo themed, but like I watch Sailor Moon. I don't care. I'm going to embrace it because it's a really good show.
It's a really good show, and she's overpowered for like no reason.
I mean, it's shoujo
Teenage
themed, but
girl.
like it has a plot. Most shoujo, it gets like super dopey. It just loses my interest. But it has to be like something like Sailor Moon to be able to not only gravitate my attention to the show and be actually watching it, but overall interact with the characters like it does too.
Yeah.
I mean, you also go
It,
into the galaxy kind of thing, kind of puts a higher ceiling on it as well with the plot.
yeah, I don't know. I find Sailor Moon to be one of those shows that because essentially with power, like she has no limit. I think everyone can get into, it, especially if you like fighting shows. There's
Yeah,
plenty of fighting. One thing Sailor Moon is going to do is throw hands. Like,
I mean,
there's no hesitation.
yeah, it's not magical go Madoka, but it is like a really good, solid show that keeps going with it. Even the other Sailor Moon too have been
Yeah,
well received as well.
yeah.
I don't know.
It's a
I feel like
solid show.
I think it resonates more with you because you like that personal connection. You just watch as a child. I can't get away from it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I grew up with it. And, like growing up, like for me, my brothers, they had like Gundam and all of that. They really like their action shows. But I mean, I really enjoy Sailor Moon. And then like every now and then you'll catch them like watching and being like, that was cool. That was cool what you just did. And I'm like, sure was.
True.
You OP'd. Yeah.
As this particular episode comes to a wrap, the thing that we have to know with reboots, there's all these different reasons why it happens. One, portrayal of the decades being a fall gap and you bring it to a new audience for a new generation. We also have, you know, censorship of the decades and staying true to the manga or being too fast and you have to make your own OVA adaptation. Also, keep in mind, just bringing into a reboot of just a different look is what you need with it as well when they consider these reboots.
Yeah, you have to be able to be flexible so that way you can resonate with the audience that you're going for. And you're also trying to capture a new audience for people who never got to see the show in its original form. So I really do give it up to a lot of these studios that take the time to try and make these characters look great and not too far from their original version. And if they
Yeah,
do change it, it still looks good. That's the main thing. It has to still look good.
yeah. And sometimes these reboots fail because they didn't portray to the original version. Like live action. No. Don't, you know.
Don't do it to
Yeah.
yourself. Yeah.
You just, sometimes a reboot in the same form as the original is sometimes better, sometimes decent, but it still brings a new, fresh quality to the content you're watching. And
Yeah.
who
And
knows?
no, mm,
Maybe the characters change drastically. Maybe they don't. Maybe they stay the same. It all depends on the reboot.
depends on the studio. And then, they might also change it depending on what the fans think. We saw what happened with Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh yeah, director's cut. Directors have different visions and different portrayals of what could be a better version. So, but as we wrap up this episode, I want to thank everyone for viewing it, being there for us as we get ready to launch the website. Um, Overall, thank you for having us. It's really fun doing this type of content.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, like thank you guys for listening. Listening to us go through all these different types of topics. Because we love anime. And you do too. And like nerd culture, I think it's really great. And you can just talk about it forever.
Oh yeah, especially we doing. Maybe we should do another series with spin-offs. See how reboots compare to spin-offs.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Who
Sometimes
knows?
spinoffs they be good. Sometimes they're good, and you're like you be talking crap, and then you watch it, and you're like, oh, oh, this is awkward. I'm
Yeah.
in love.
But as we wrap this up, don't forget to subscribe to us on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart Music, iHeart Radio, Apple, Amazon Music, and don't forget to if you want to be an MC animator on our Patreon page at Blog MC Anime, please do so. We have hosting content, give us suggestions, be a special guest, contributing, doing the polls, all that we want to make for MC Anime going forward. And you can follow us
Absolutely.
on Twitter and Facebook. Mason Kalan on Twitter, and then Blog MC Anime on Facebook. That's a wrap, and thank you guys for watching.
Thanks, you guys. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
This concludes another episode of MC Anime Podcast. MC Anime Podcast is available on podcast directories like Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. We also have our website at mcanimepodcast.com. If you want to directly support us, then follow Patreon blog MC Anime. Finally, if you want services for hire, then we're available on Fiverr for audio and video production, graphic design, idea consulting, and blog and article writing.